Welcome back, everybody. Just Mike here. Let's get on with part 2 of the Schmeckenbecher movement and clock and see how far we get. So I don't remember if I did a weight yet or not. About 325. So on this clock, I went ahead and used the Murphy soap on it, diluted of course. This is in this paper on the 3 sides and around here is in pretty good shape. It's starting to show little bits of cracking for the wood underneath, and what I plan on doing, I'm going to try a little bit of this Howard's feeding wax and see, which I think I'll start down here, see what it looks like. And what I'd like to do is actually do the whole clock to try to preserve what's here already. If this is in a little bit worse shape or whatever, I might try putting a clear coat on it to seal it down better. But otherwise, for now, like I say, this one looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and use this wax. I also wanted to show you this part. This is where the hands go on. The string of beads goes on here and turns this. So I got the movement installed. I still have the one priest off so I can get the priest through the door that are on the other side. And now I'm going to go ahead and put the bead on. That's going to change the hour hand, minute hand, whatnot. But first I have to make this thing run to find out where the actual top of the hour is. So I'll spin the hand and I'll use my fingers. I haven't got the chains hooked up yet. I figured I didn't want them flopping around, is why I'm putting them on last. So I hooked the beads up and got them in their slot. Same with up here. And when you saw this, when I was showing it to you, it does have a place for the string to ride, so that way the beads shouldn't fall out. They should stay right into place. I don't have it super tight or anything, but I have it tight enough. It's going to turn and be on the, let's say, the right time. I think that's it. All I need to do now is figure out the music box. Make sure this here is done. The music is done playing, and then make sure the music box is on the dead spot where there's no teeth. And then we can slide it in there and see if it's fitting up good, or if I have to move in or out that gear, because I didn't know for sure when I put it on there just how far it needed to be moved. So I'll trip the trigger. Oops, gotta turn it the right way. And the comb, you can hear it's not hitting very strong, but personally, because it's going to be my clock, I don't know that I want it that strong, because it's not a pretty sound as far as I'm concerned. It's just some kind of music, a tune that I haven't heard before, I guess we'll put it that way. Down the road, once I get this thing installed on the wall, there's a chance maybe I can't hear it as well, and I'd like to take this back out, move the comb closer to the drum, and then I'll be able to hear it better. But I need to find out, once I get the back on, hanging on the wall, just exactly what it sounds like. So, another great day to work inside. I am in the process with my brother, seeing about maybe making the arms and the trumpets and the part that the king holds on to, even though I have that one, but to make extra, and see if those turn out or not. So it's been a while since I've been back at this clock. Not that you guys know, but my brother made me a bunch of things, which he's got hours into making this stuff. So of course I've got my king that doesn't have his part here to hold on to, his scepter. So my brother's made some scepters, and these here aren't exactly this is the original. This is what we come up with. It does have the cross on the top. You can nip those off if you want it to look more like that one there. And also, this original has just the lines in it. This one here's a little bit different. Has the lines, but it's different. And on here, there was a hand with an arm that came off. And what we're doing is copying different things that are already made up of soldiers or knights or whatever. And so copying them, you're making it easier on yourself compared to inventing a program that does this. And so those have got to be sanded off. And of course you have to have the right length to come into his hand and not shoot above his head too far, compared to the original one is supposed to be kind of like that. And then all these guys that belong on the side, the part that holds the arm is usually broke because they broke off the arm of the thing. And so in here, there it is, my brother made these things so that way you have new ones and the end is sealed. And he also made these arms. These are actually arms off of soldiers, I do believe he said. And I'll have to grind these or sand them down in order to get them to fit properly. Let me try to show you. This just slides right on there, and this is where the spring hooks up to on this end here, which goes up and down as the clock's running. This here needs to be ground in order for it to be more towards the front of his face. And so when he brings the horn up, which he made these horns, when he brings the horn up, the horn needs to come up to his mouth, which these are too long, but it needs to come up to his mouth, and that's what you got to do with this arm, is make it so it goes up to his mouth. So like I say, there's a little bit of work here in order to angle this right to get it to come in and then swivel up to his mouth with the horn. And we have arms for him, and then we have arms for the guy that's on this side here. And the arms are, let's say, a bit big compared to his hand, we'll say, but it's not as noticeable, and it definitely won't be as noticeable once you get these things painted, because right now we have black and there might be a few gray ones in here, but I'm just thankful that he is able to come up with something in order to have replacement parts, because you can't find anything even close. In fact, they don't sell replacement parts. And I haven't seen anyone selling them. But these, like I say, this here, I can't glue it on yet until I get the scepter in. I have to have this move around a little bit further so I can get it pushed in. And that's all I do is push in. You put a little bit of glue on both sides here, and then that's when you push it in. And that goes for the same with these. There's a peg there so you can line them up. You put a little bit of glue on both sides and push them back onto the clock as well. So I have a Dremel. I went ahead and bought a Dremel drill press, and that was very handy in making these parts, as in drilling the holes into them as needed. But now I plan on hooking the sanding drum on here and see how well it is to sand these at the right angle and that kind of stuff. And I do know you have to be careful with this, because this isn't as bad, but these, they are kind of fragile. They do bend a little bit, but you got to be careful when you're dealing with this stuff, because they will break, probably just like the originals that were there. So here I have the two kings. One has the original and the other one has a homemade one. From a distance, you'll never notice it. You just see that he has the scepter in his hand, and that's all that's going to make any difference. Now, I did paint both of them gold because that's what I do believe they look like in the pictures. And of course, I showed you that I went ahead and refreshed the gold crown, the gold ball, the gold stripe on their robe. So this is the only arm I have, and you can see how, let's call it, sharp of a bend that is compared to the arm replacements I have, and these are actually soldier pieces that you can put together, the program, and so I have to do a lot of grinding to make it kind of look like the original one. And some of them I've ground already. I've thinned the arm down quite a bit, and I was able to grind it to pretty much come close to matching. This one looks like it needs a little bit more of an adjustment, but it takes time. So I guess I'm going to get to grinding again. So here we're going to show how these things go together. Now, this is an original part that goes into here. It happened not to be broke. I have the ones now that are good, we'll say. Anyway, this just slides on here. Oh, get it right side. And it's operated by this spring and the weight of the horn and the arm that pulls it back up. When the clock says to stop, it pulls it back down. And so I need to make sure this is, let's say, in the right spot. And so I have to install it over here. And this here, oh, you might be able to push it through the hole. Well, I guess so. Put it back on the man. And then the man, for now, I'll set it into the hole. So this is giving us an idea. This bar here. Here. There's this bar here the spring hooks onto, and over here is when the music box plays, it has this part here that this is supposed to fall into. So this here has weight on it, and the weight is the arms of the soldier and his horn that'll hold this up. And so the thing I got to do is figure out, is this arm supposed to be straight? And then when this pops out of the hole over here, or the groove of the music box part, it's supposed to drop this and make these lift up. Make their arm lift up by pulling down here. And so this needs to be straight, I do believe. When you go to glue your arm back on that, this right arm, nope. So with this straight, this needs to be down the horn, and as this pulls down, that's when this arm needs to come up with the horn on it. So taking this one, I actually need to glue it into place. So that way I can glue the horn into place so it matches up right, because there's not really a hole drilled, it's just an open space. And I'll have to install this here and then probably put soda on the super glue in order to make it grab right away, and that way I don't have to fight it. So this needs to be down about so far before I glue it on. So I have to get it, let's say, close to his mouth, and the horn will have to do its job. So this way when the clock pops out of the groove, it'll be up like this, and when it goes into the groove, this will come up and the horn will drop down however far it can, depending on where he's sitting. So my first job is to get this glued, we'll say close to his mouth. So now I have his arm glued on. So now and I have to have it on here in order to take this horn and glue it into place so it's reaching his mouth. And I did have to grind out in here in order to get this to start coming close to what I needed it to do. It doesn't have to be perfect, mainly because the clock's hanging on the wall and you see the movement. And right now it has enough weight. I do plan on oiling this rod in the back of him in order to make sure it stays nice and slick, I guess we'll say. I have this dark blue model paint. Then we'll paint his arm first. We'll see how close it matches. It doesn't hurt if you have to paint his robe also. But these things, as you can see how ugly he is, they weren't too pretty on painting these things. They just got the color on. I will admit I put new gold on where the sword is, and I've touched his hair up a little bit. Now that I have a scepter glued back on, I'm leaving this green paint on there because I'm going to put a touch of super glue on each side here so that way it glues on right away. Have the one priest out, line up the holes and push him in. And there he is. Now let's get the other priest on. The only thing I did is I touched up the gold and the gold on the sword. These are a little bit difficult to get on because they don't just slide on. I'm going to hold up the plate and give them a few twists and see if I can get them to go on. Like I say, these are not easy. He's on good enough. He needs to go down further. Now let me finish playing the music and you can see him go around. And so it was a bit of a struggle getting this clock going, mainly because I was missing pieces, and it took my brother a while to use his 3D printer, which he has that liquid bath type, to make it smoother, but to come up with something that looked like the right arms, the trumpet or horn that's on the clock, all those pieces you have to kind of dream. And I guess these used to be, or were soldiers you could put together in pieces or whatever, and they were close enough that just sanding it, it worked out. As far as I'm concerned, it looks good. Anyway, thank you for stopping by and watching the video. Give me a good thumbs up if you appreciate this clock, and don't forget to subscribe because it's free. And until next time, God bless.